All right, let's get into it. We're about to unravel a mystery that is, frankly, mind-bending. It all starts with this tiny, strange quirk inside every living thing on our planet, and it ends with a massive warning about the future of artificial intelligence. I know it sounds completely unrelated, right? But believe me, the connection is there. And understanding it links a basic rule of biology to one of the biggest, thorniest ethical problems we're facing right now. It's a story about how life's broken mirror might just show us our own future. Okay, so let's jump right in. To even start to get this, we have to look at the building blocks of life itself. There's this bizarre property, a choice that life made billions of years ago, and we still don't know why. So the key idea here is something called chirality. It sounds super technical, I know, but it's really just a fancy word that comes from the Greek for handedness. And honestly, the best way to get it is to just look down at your own two hands. Think about it. Your hands are perfect mirror images of each other, but they're not identical. You can't lay your left hand perfectly on top of your right. It just doesn't work. A left hand is always a left hand. Well, it turns out that a ton of the molecules that are essential for life are exactly the same way. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When scientists make these molecules in a lab, from scratch, chemistry does what you'd expect. It plays fair. You get a perfect 50-50 mix of the left-handed and the right-handed versions. It's perfectly symmetrical. Makes total sense. But life? Well, life is a rule breaker. It does something totally different. For any given job, life stubbornly picks one hand and completely ignores the other, every time. This strange preference is called homochirality, and it is genuinely one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in all of biology. And I mean, just look at how absolute this rule is. Every single amino acid that makes up your proteins, left-handed. Every sugar molecule in your DNA, right-handed. Even that iconic double helix shape always twists to the right. We have never, ever found an exception to this in nature. It is an ironclad rule. So you're probably thinking, okay, cool fact, but who cares, right? Well, this is way more than just a piece of trivia. This little detail about molecular handedness can literally be the difference between life and death. Let's take this molecule right here, L-DOPA. That L actually stands for levo, which means left-handed. For people suffering from Parkinson's disease, this drug is an absolute game changer. It's incredible. But now look at its mirror image, D-DOPA, the right-handed twin. It has the exact same atoms connected in the same way, it's just flipped. And it does absolutely nothing to help Parkinson's patients. In fact, it's worse than useless. It's actively toxic and can cause devastating side effects. The stakes for getting the handedness right are unbelievably high. This broken symmetry is so deep, so fundamental, and so weird that it's led people to some pretty profound theories about where it came from. What if this choice wasn't just some random cosmic accident? What if it was deliberate? Now, this is a pretty radical idea from one of our sources. It completely reframes the entire question. It suggests that this isn't some chemical puzzle we need to solve, but instead it's a foundational feature, something put there on purpose from the very beginning. So the takeaway here is huge. This perspective sees homochirality not as a fluke, but as a signature, like a divine fingerprint that's woven into the fabric of every single living cell. It's a message that says life was designed with a very specific form and a very specific purpose. So whether it happened by a cosmic roll of the dice or by deliberate design, life has this unchangeable, one-handed imprint. And that brings up a really fascinating question for us today. What happens when we are the ones doing the creating? What happens when we try to imprint a purpose onto the things we build? Yeah, let's think about that. If homochirality is life's unchangeable purpose, its built-in choice, what happens when we try to do the same thing to our own complex creations? What happens when we try to build a fixed purpose directly into a machine? And this is exactly what a man named Norbert Wiener was worried about decades ago. He was a brilliant mathematician, basically the founder of cybernetics, which is the study of how systems, both living and artificial, control and communicate. And he was deeply troubled by where his own work was heading. He called the era we're now living in the second industrial revolution. He said the first one was about machines replacing human muscle, but this new one, he warned, would be about machines replacing the human mind, and he knew we had to be incredibly careful. And this is where it all comes together. This is where that strange molecular mystery we started with becomes the perfect metaphor for Wiener's most profound warning about technology. So let's use this as an analogy. If homochirality is life's fixed, left-hand-only choice, then what on earth does it mean to add chirality to an artificial intelligence? Well, it's a metaphor for imprinting a rigid, unchangeable purpose onto it, giving it a single, predetermined moral code. This is exactly what terrified Wiener. He compared it to the old story of the monkey's paw. You know, the magical charm that grants your wishes, but it does so literally, with horrific, unintended consequences. You get exactly what you ask for, not what you actually meant. And Wiener himself put it perfectly with this quote: "A machine will do precisely what we command it to do, not what we hope it will do." Trying to hard-code a purpose into an AI without understanding every single possible outcome, well, that's just a recipe for disaster. So, we've gone from a strange quirk in our molecules all the way to the ethical frontier of AI. And it all boils down to one crucial thing. Wiener's real legacy isn't some technical blueprint. It's a challenge to how we think. You see, the question he forces us to ask ourselves is this: what are we actually building here? Are we trying to create partners that can grow and learn alongside us? Or are we just trying to build incredibly powerful, literal-minded servants to follow orders we can't possibly define perfectly? And that's the final, critical point. The real danger isn't that a machine will one day wake up and hate us. The danger is a machine that will obey a flawed command perfectly and without question. Life's broken mirror shows us that one single fixed choice defines an entire system. And before we try to imprint that kind of chirality onto our AI, Wiener's warning is screaming at us through time. Are we absolutely sure we are asking the right questions before we go and build the answer?